Undercover Jet Setter. Travel.
A New England seaport you need to hit. We give you pointers on Newport, Rhode Island from a local expert and a longtime friend. Hi, everybody. John Daly here with some Undercover Jet Setter. We are talking about Newport, Rhode Island, and our guest and our expert on Rhode Island and Newport is longtime friend and colleague Cathy Ray. She joins us from New England. Cath, welcome to the show.
Hey, it is such a pleasure to be here, John. Not only to talk to you, my friend, but to talk about one of the most beautiful places that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, and you get to be
near there. A place that I've really fallen in love with.
Absolutely. Now, many of the folks know that Cath, you and I were co-anchors at Channel 13 together in Las Vegas. But before that, we actually worked in Providence, Rhode Island at competing stations. And Cath, you just moved back a few years ago and lived in Newport for a few years, right?
We did. And it's not to say that I don't know if I'm an expert per se on Newport, because there are many people who are truly experts on Newport. But I can tell you that I love the city. We even fell in love with it even more. We chose to move back to Newport because it was a nice mix between a real sense of history, plus there were tourists and a lot of activity going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really the perfect blend for us to settle into coming back from Vegas.
Yeah. No, understandable. Now, recently here on Undercover Jet Setter, we did a segment on Newport. You can see it on youtube.com/undercoverjetsetter. And, Newport for me goes back to when I worked in Providence, and also when I went to Providence College. So that's a long time ago. I spent a lot of time down there. I realized it's a great food town, great ocean scenery, history, some big events, great nightlife, and just a great place to kind of veg out. Give us your three best tips about Newport.
Oh gosh, only three? Okay, let me think here. Let me see. Well, first of all, I think if you're thinking about planning ahead, okay, you have to plan ahead. Do your homework and do it online. If you're thinking about going, say, a month ahead of time, check out Rhode Island Monthly Magazine online and Newport Life Magazine, because they're awesome in terms of giving you specific events that are taking place that you may not be aware of. For example, when I'm talking to you right now, the Derby, listen to me, Kentucky Derby's coming up. They're having a fantastic Derby party down there. So things that may not be something that's generally on your mind when you think of Newport, Rhode Island, they have so many things. So you want to go ahead, do your homework. I would think too, check out things like there's the flower show, there's the bridal show, there's the boat show. These things go far, beyond what we normally think of the Newport Jazz Festival or the Newport Folk Festival or all the many different regattas and races, sail races that you see down there. So there's just so much going on. So check it out ahead of time so you really have a handle on what's happening. Once you've done that, go ahead and make reservations. Make them as soon as you can, as they allow you to. Because I can tell you, during the season, there are many cruise ships. They stop there on a daily basis. And in fact, that's a big part of the locals' economy down there, the folks coming in from the cruise ships. And so there are thousands of people there every day during season. So it's hard to get into some of these restaurants and different events. So if you think you're just going to breeze in and, hey, I'm going to go to the flower show, or I'm going to go ahead and have dinner at 41 North or whatever, there are these fantastic places. You can't get it. You can't get those reservations. So do it ahead of time. And I would think once you're done with that, depending upon how you come in, whether you're flying in or whether you're driving in, if you're flying in, you're going to have to rent a car to go on down. It's not really parking friendly. I don't know if you remember that, John, but That's one of those things where people park on the streets. I mean, and a lot of those street parking things are reserved for the colonial homes that are there. So there's you have to have a specific parking sticker. So I would say be prepared to if you're lucky enough to find a spot, then hang on to it. Be prepared to pay for it in certain areas, but most of all, have comfortable walking shoes. Bring an umbrella because you're on the water. And unlike Vegas, where we didn't have a lot of showers, here they breeze in and they breeze out, So be prepared to go ahead and have water, have an umbrella, and maybe some sunscreen as well. So I think, out of those are probably these are all common sense, but things to do ahead of time that you really should, because it's a beautiful city, but it's not a very large city. And and the areas that you want to see and walk are going to be very crowded during season.
It's interesting you mentioned about the about the parking, because when I was there most recently, I was actually there in September. In fact, that's when you and I got a chance to see each other. I was there for September, so it was a little bit out of season, even though still that's a great time to go. And we stayed one night in North Kingstown, just outside of Newport, because we couldn't get any of the rooms in there. And we actually Ubered it in. So we were actually able to take a ride share in there, and we found ride share even around Newport really wasn't that bad. And it's exactly what you're saying. When you total up what the cost of parking is, it's actually easier just to take an Uber. So Uber
smart.
and Lyft are available there. So it's definitely something that's worthwhile. I would imagine for you, being somebody who lives there, because you're living outside of Newport now, just getting an Uber or a Lyft probably wouldn't be worth it. It'd be better just to drive down there if you and Jeff are just going down there.
Right. I mean, I have friends there, and we're allowed. They're nice enough to let me park in their driveways. But I'm not too proud to say I've used the pedicabs several times. And for people who don't know what that is, I mean, these folks, young college kids primarily during the summer, who will ride you on their bicycles, and the poor things, but they will take you all around, and you just give them what you feel is right. Sometimes there's a base fee, but it's pretty cheap. But you're going to want to go ahead and tip them well, because these kids work really hard.
I can imagine. Now, just to clarify that, Kath, when you say that you ride on their bicycle, do you sit on their right on the front of their?
I sit on the handlebars, John, and I.
You sit on the handlebars. That's.
No, they have a little basket, but not a basket. Little seats. You can put two people on at once. They have they're pulling like a little trolley, like a little, So that's what they're doing. You're sitting there. They're pulling like this bike, then they're pedaling you on it. And it's
sorry, I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist.
Yeah,
I had to ask you that.
Yeah.
So
of course you did.
This is just like anchoring. This is just like when we used to anchor together.
Except
just come out with something ridiculous.
You under the desk or kick you under the desk. Oh, those days, yes.
Oh, yes. We are talking with Cathy Ray. She's a former news anchor in Rhode Island, also in Las Vegas with me. She's talking to us about Newport, Rhode Island, a favorite spot for really anyone who has lived in New England. So, Kath, do you have any must-sees if someone is going to Newport for the first time?
Well, I guess it depends on what your interests are. I mean, when I think of Newport, the first thing I think of is if it's beauty and it's on the ocean, you think of sailing and that sort of thing. Ocean Drive, you've got to see Ocean Drive. So whether you get an Uber to drive you along Ocean Drive, and what it is, it takes you around the outside and around the outside of the island, around the outside of the city, and right on the rocks, on the water, and you see these. When I talk about estates, these are not the estates on Bellevue, the mansions that you normally think of. These are other estates and mansions that are out on the rocks and on the reefs, and it's just spectacular. And the raw beauty of it is amazing. You can bicycle all through there and do the loop, and it connects to Bellevue Avenue. But you've got to see Ocean Drive. And if you do decide to go on Ocean Drive, you're going to pass Fort Adams State Park, which is a great place to go and check out if you want to see the Fort Adams itself, a great historic site. They've got great tours. And they have, Hammersmith Farm is along that way as well. It's now privately bought. It used to be John F. Kennedy's and Jackie's place in Newport. Now it's privately owned. So it's, locals, we know which one it is. It isn't well done, signage is not out there right now. But just to see the whole area, and it's kind of like right next to Fort Adams State Park, so you kind of know where it is. I would say in terms of beaches, I love Second Beach. First Beach is the one that you see, which is the big beach that's down off of Bellevue Avenue, the mansions. If you take Cliff Walk, that's fun to do. That's along the backside of the mansions along Bellevue. And that goes along for a long time, and it's gorgeous. And you're right on the water, you're on the cliff, and you see the back of all these gorgeous mansions. But that looks down on First Beach. If you take it around to Second Beach, you just follow it around. It's just a gorgeous area if you're going to go ahead and swim for the day. It's technically in Middletown. So First Beach is, technically Newport, and Second and Third Beaches are in Middletown, which is, right across a little line right there. You can't tell the difference when you're along the water. But that's a great place to go if you want a beautiful beach with sand and scenery. Looking up at St. George's there, which is, the private school. It's spectacular. If you're into tennis, you want to see the International Tennis Hall of Fame. They did a big remodel just a few years back.
Yep.
And that's really cool. St. Mary's Church is right there where John F. Kennedy and Jackie got married, which is it's a tourist spot. And of course, there are the mansions, must see. I mean, you can't see all of the mansions in one day. If you're thinking you're going to come in and see, where they filmed The Great Gatsby and Marble House and Rosecliff Marble House and I mean, it just goes on and on and on. You're not going to. If I could pick one mansion, I would say the Breakers. And that is right on the campus or adjacent to the campus, right there, Salve Regina University. And the Breakers it was owned by Cornelius Vanderbilt. And, they have the self-guided tours through there. But it's just phenomenal the way these people lived years ago. Now all of these, for the most part, are owned by the Newport Historical Society. So, you can get, deals on those as well. But I'd say the Breakers. I mean, John, there's so much. There really is.
That's the great thing about it. And it's interesting you hit that because when we did our segment on Newport, we hit the Breakers. We actually went and toured the Breakers and used that based on that. And it's interesting you say that because I was actually, me, because I'm kind of a Gatsby freak. I was thinking about was it Marble House? Is that what it's called? What's the house where they shot?
Well, Rosecliff is where they shot Gatsby.
Rosecliff.
Mm-hmm.
Rosecliff. That's what
the
it
Robert
was,
Redford
and
one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was thinking about that too. So, but you're right. It's
in
just
the Breakers. You know what they shot?
So much there.
Eyes. Arnold Schwarzenegger. In the Breakers, they shot that in the dance scene, the ballroom scene, and everything through there.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I remember. I didn't put two and two together that it was the Breakers.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. How about restaurants that you have to hit? Can you give me one or two that you would suggest?
Why would you ask me that? Why? It's so difficult. They're all good. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of seafood here. Okay. If I'm thinking everything taking into consideration, I'd say Inn at Castle Hill, you'd want to go and eat at if you're going to be there on a Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. And the weather's nice because that literally is right at the beginning of Ocean Drive. You're up on a cliff, the top of this hill. If there is a race or any sort of a regatta going on, or any of the Volvo races, the big races that are down there, you're going to see the ships go by. And there's lawn seating. The food is good. It is pricey, but it's good. But there's music. You could sit in the lawn chairs, have your strawberry daiquiri. I mean, it's just, and it really kicks you back to the 1920s, 1930s. Mm-hmm. It just is, and it's because this place is very historic. You can stay there too. It's also a hotel. It's the Inn at Castle Hill and Castle Hill Restaurant, but it's the Inn at Castle Hill. And then, there are the wharfs that are down right in the heart of downtown Newport. So you have Bowen's Wharf and you have Bannister's Wharf. There are a lot of different historic little restaurants through there. They're all good. They're all good. A lot of them part of the Newport group. But if you want terrific clam chowder, New England clam chowder, and this is known, and for me, I mean, I'm kind of a gourmet on this sort of thing in terms of my taste buds when it comes to New England clam chowder, the Black Pearl.
Yep.
You have to go there. And again, history is throughout this entire town. But you can also, there's an outdoor seating area, which is fun during the summer. So you don't have to sit inside this. It's a small little tavern, the Black Pearl.
And we also profiled that too in our segment as well. Yeah. So you're hitting all the things. I remember going to the Black Pearl back in the 70s, and they still have the same recipe for that clam chowder. and
Yes.
it's a secret
You can
recipe.
buy it.
They won't tell
You
you what
can
it
buy
is.
it canned. You can buy
Yeah.
it canned.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
you can. All right.
Yeah.
So for the most part, Newport it's really pricey in season. Out of season, it's not too bad though.
It's not. The hotel prices go down. The Airbnbs, they all go down when you're not in season. Personally, and having lived down there now, being a local when I was a local down there, I liked off season better because I mean it just gets so crazy during season. However, right, like I'd say, September, right after Labor Day, and into the first part of October. To me, that's my favorite time down in Newport.
Yeah.
It's the weather's perfect. You're getting a hint of autumn. It's not quite as hot, but it's still gorgeous. And yeah, again, you're going to start getting breaks on some of the hotels, and some, yeah.
I would agree with you. Now, you've actually said you enjoy winter, and again, when we lived there, we enjoyed going down there in the winter. Is it chilly? Yeah, you can get a pretty brisk breeze coming off the ocean there, which kind of chills you a little bit. But if you're going to be eating chowder and going into the breakers and having a great meal, it's actually not too bad. So I like you, I enjoyed it down there in the winter.
I loved it. I loved it in the wintertime. It's so picturesque, and especially when it snowed. You're not going to get as much snow down there, but believe me, we've gotten snow, especially in the past few years. When we first moved back here, overnight, we got 24 inches down there.
Wow.
And when obviously it was a blizzard that came through, but it occasionally gets hit like that. Normally not. Normally it's more mild along the water.
Yeah.
But at night down there, and you're looking like, say, up at Trinity Church, and they have all the Christmas lights on, all through town, and it's just so magnificent. It's beautiful.
I never thought about going there as kind of a pre-Christmas instead of going to New York or somewhere like that. Actually, Newport would be a lot of fun.
It is a lot
that time
of fun.
of year. Yeah,
it
cool.
is a lot of fun right before Christmas,
Good.
and they have great little shops, and a lot of them are still open.
All right. A couple other quick things. Is there a particular hotel you would recommend, or would you say get an Airbnb or something like that? Is there any particular choice?
My cousin swears by Airbnbs, and there are a lot of bed and breakfasts around where you can get really nice little rooms, but you have to go back and do your homework on that.
Yeah.
And they do fill up rather quickly. And because Salve Virginia University is right there in Newport, depending upon the weekend, if they have something going on at school, if it's parents' weekend or what, those hotels fill up. And this is off season. So you really have to plan ahead on this. If you want something that's historic, history is everywhere there. But historic, you have Hotel Viking, which is on Bellevue Avenue. It's probably the most well-known. It's also very expensive. They've got a great spa there, nice restaurant. But that's nice, I would say that. But, there are so many different places down there, and they just remodeled the Marriott a couple of years ago. It's right on the water. So if you're into the bigger hotel scene and perhaps you're part of the rewards program, what is it now, Bonvoy or whatever it is?
There is Bonvoy. That's good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, cool. So
you got the Marriott.
You touched on this too about getting there, because you're going to have to drive. You're either going to fly into Providence or you could fly into Boston. If you flew into New York, it's probably about a 4-hour drive from Providence. It's almost an hour now, and Boston's probably about 2 hours. Is that still how it is as far as trying to get there? And is it a pain in the neck to get there?
It's a pain in the neck to get there. Okay, I'm being honest. If you want to come into Newport, no, but I mean, if you want to fly into Newport, for Newport, you come into Providence, which is actually, it's T.F. Green Airport and it's in Warwick. But you want to fly into T.F. Green. If you're coming in from Logan, the best way to come down would be coming down the 24. So you're coming in from the north. Once you're off the 95, you're not even on the 95, you're on the 93, and then you get on the 24 off of that. And it brings you right down the back way through Portsmouth, which is the top of Aquidneck Island. Newport sits on Aquidneck Island. Portsmouth is at the top, Middletown in the middle, of course, and Newport at the south base of it. So that's one way to come in. When we drive in, and I'm coming in from southeastern Massachusetts, that's the way I come down now. I used to come down through, if you're coming down through Rhode Island, you have to go down 95, hop onto Route 4, and that's the bottleneck that you have, because that Route 4 that takes you down also goes to all of the beaches in southern Rhode Island, which are very busy.
And you're also going over a lot of bridges too. You're going over a lot of bridges as well.
You've got bridges wherever you go. Primarily,
yeah.
You have a few more if you're going that way, because if you're going down that way, you're going to hit Jamestown first, which is Conimicut Island, and the town of Jamestown sits on that, and then another bridge over to get to Newport, which is on Aquidneck Island. We've lived on both islands. We've lived on Aquidneck, and we used to live in Jamestown. So since we've been back, because we wanted to experience the island life and history coming from Las Vegas. Do you know our first house, our house that we rented when we first got there, John? It was built in 1725.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
Was it a pain? I mean, it was cool, but was it a pain also having a house that old that might need a lot of different things to be done, or was it easy to live in?
Well, you have to keep the history of it. They're all, you have to maintain. If you live in the Point section of Newport, and that you have a lot of the old colonial homes in there. And when I say old, you're talking from the 1600s to the 1700s. And there are people, and of course 1800s, which is much more new. In Vegas, they would implode at 50 years. So this was really a new experience for us. But it's fabulous. We were just renting there, so thankfully, any sort of major repairs would have gone onto our landlord. But we rented in this home for 3 years. It was so nice.
Wow. All right. So you'd recommend that? You'd recommend somebody trying that? All right.
Absolutely.
Cool. All righty. Well, Cath, this has been great. We've got to get together. I've got to get Terry, and we got to get together with Jeff and have some drinks and go down and sit on the pier in Newport. Maybe
we would love that.
Bowen's Wharf, and have a little clam chowder.
Absolutely. I'm going to hold you guys to it.
Okay. Well, we hope to be back up there soon, and we just love seeing you guys, and of course love being in touch with you, and appreciate all you've done for me and helping me in my career, and it's always been good having you. So
John,
much appreciated.
You know that. Love you, buddy. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you.
All
right. Thank you. Cathy Ray is a former news anchor in Las Vegas and in Providence, Rhode Island. She and I worked together for a number of years. She's coming to us from New England, where she now lives. Again, Cath, thank you very much. Remember to catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Plus, you can check us out on undercoverjetsetter.com. Keep swinging easy, folks.
See segments and episodes at youtube.com/undercoverjetsetter.